But just to continue what you already started with, as you know, or not know, I'm from that company building these big yellow machines, construction machineries, Volvo, and that company, was not that big when it started, for sure. So it grew through mergers and acquisitions. So there had been a product in the very early stages. It was a tractor, actually. It was not a construction company at all, or construction equipment company. It was a agricultural equipment company. And then they converted the tractor to a wheel loader, and then some years later, the same kind of principle happened to the articulated hauler that is produced kind of close here in Wales. And they merged together some years later. They started with excavators, then Volvo bought Samsung, and it had been constantly adding products to the portfolio. So it was not a kind of need-based growth by customer demands. It was just opportunity-based growth by, okay, there is something on sale and just dumping it in. All these products had been then met on the customer side, but internally, there had been totally different processes of producing and developing these products. And that's, I can tell you, sometimes you see already or still right now in our processes or in our kind of culture, but it's getting better and better. And when, I guess it's not that wrong when my colleagues internally, they are totally proud on the products they are designing, they are producing, so there is nothing wrong about that. But what we then figured out 15, 20 years ago, something around that, there is something missing when we talk to our customers, and that is the solution perspective, or actually the customer view. Because we have all our nice products on the customer side, but they are not kind of working in the same way. They are not designed in the same way, but still have the same brand. And so what we then at that time came up with was a way of working to bring all the engineers together and also open up for this typical stuff. How can we then collaborate and drive innovation maybe, and also then customer needs, and also then shifting away more from the product focus towards the solution focus and actually the process focus on the customer side. And we have been quite successful with that. So 14 years ago, we created a possibility that's called, or an internal lab that's called Concept Labs, where we then started to bring up ideas that had been grown inside the company, not only inside our company, but also with really, really nice contributions from our customers and suppliers, the co-development activity, where we then started to test ideas. And when I say lab or laboratory, in our case, it's much bigger than the normal lab at the university or in the biological branch or in the chemical branch or something like that. So we need to have full scale possibilities to test our hypothesis. So then there is a lot of steel and iron involved, some rubber, and then we test that stuff. And that turned out to be quite successful as a kind of application model to bring in engineers from all over the company to work part-time. And part-time, I mean maybe 5% on ideas, and then mature them to a level where they can be tested and brought to application, and then evaluate that and see if this is something that can be definitely something that will show up in the next series or maybe down the stream some more years. And we did some research from 2014, I guess that was, when we worked intensively together with students here from Karlskrona, but also from Stanford, where we actually explored other initiatives, and we gave them just a direction and said, okay, let's explore the city as a mine, or drop elephants to ants. So how will then scaling up, scaling down affect our industry in the future? And what they did is also coming up with a lot of really, really useful insights into the work we can do right now, because they are totally unsupported. And that was a really interesting way forward to also boost our internal innovation capability, to have possibilities to work together with, I would say, all the ecosystem, not only academic partners, but also then suppliers, the customers, and for sure then also our specialists and experts internally. So we have quite a good grip on that right now. As Tobias already mentioned, there's always a crisis we need to fight. Some years ago it was exhaust gas emissions. Then there was in our area it was acquired holics. Right now it's the Cyber Resilience Act. People are going crazy about this stuff. So if we let this run and people only focus on that, definitely we're in this situation that we just are mocking the water and not preparing ourselves for the future. But there's much more stuff that we can do, especially when it comes to solutions that are delivered to customer sites. So machines cooperating with each other, automation. I guess Carl was talking about automation last time. Then we will have a lot of connectivity work ongoing right now with Ericsson, talking about 5G. For sure that is it's old technology, considers that we right now talking about 6G, 7G in the application, enabling then automation, remote controlled machinery, also then the full process control, and then also bridging how machines behave and how machines can collaborate to on the side, and then also what is part of my research, how machines can collaborate with humans and how we then can facilitate trust in between humans and machines. So these are all these type of aspects we are testing with these concept labs, and we are running quite a bit. And maybe we have then a high ambition to test all that stuff and coming up with a lot of prototypes. But a lot of the learnings that we then document and bring back to the engineering departments, they are actually ending up also in the next serious development. Maybe it's not the big deal and it's not the greatest innovation when you're looking from the outside, but for the customer in the specific use case and specific application, that is maybe solving an issue, solving a pain they had since decades. And they had one really good example we did within a workshop here in Mors, where they constantly have an issue that these machines are backing up and throwing the material over a cliff. And to be at the best position to lift your bucket, you need somehow to align your rear wheels with that edge. And a lot of our colleagues then internally, they started to develop camera systems to really detect the line where the machine should stop in the end. And in the end, what was the solution that you can see if you are kind of focused on this type of machinery? So if you see one of these big haulers, or if you happen to see one of these big haulers, that's a small tape on the flap on the rear wheel, and that is if this lines up with this tipping edge, then the machine stands perfect. And that was just during a workshop where they just came up with, we don't need all of these technology and AI to solve this stuff. Sometimes it's just a piece of duct tape. And right now, this is something that is safety related, because if you're not taking care of, or if you're not focusing on where you are with your rear wheels, it can end in a very bad situation that machine then hits over efforts. And so right now, this is then going without any extra charge on every machine they sell. And it's also patented, but free for use to all other manufacturers, because it's safety related. And safety is something where we don't make any compromises. And here we also then start to work together, not only with, as I mentioned before, academia, suppliers and the customers, but also with our competitors to get solutions in place where we actually can make impact on the construction site, so that we have a positive outcome at the end. So you have any questions, anything you would like to know about these developments? Yes.
How do you handle the manning for this part of the company? You have the special money coming from somewhere?
Yes. So that is simply the question. And we have a network called innovation coaches.
Yeah.
So these are dedicated people. They are training to facilitate workshops and all that. And when we are running these workshops, and then we would like to get some people from, we call them technology. Let us call them technology teams.
Yeah.
Then the first question from the managers is always,
show me money.
Where can they put the money on, or where can they put the time on? And then we have a dedicated cost center to put the money on. And for sure, it's around, we say 5% can be dedicated to the person for whatever time period. And so that can be then also for some people are really, really interested in doing that stuff.
Yeah.
And others are not so interested, so they can share in between these amount. And so we have a really good grip on that, so that people actually have then the freedom to invest in that. Yeah. We have a company-wide platform where they can post their ideas. Yeah. Then we help them, these innovation coaches help them to mature these ideas so that we can see, this is...
You can have like 40 hours to...
Yes, and then they get, in our case, they can get up to 500 to invest the idea. So, and that can be man hours, material, travel costs. So, and it has to be spent within the fiscal year. So, and then they have to write in for it. And some of the stuff, not all for sure, but some of the stuff then actually is so good that we say, right now we convert that into a project. Okay? And then we have a bigger bucket where we can take then money out of that, and then we assemble a project team, and then we run through stage gate process, and then deliver that as as knowledge into the normal development process.
Comment to that. That's a design system today. So coming back to this, where you spend money, it's a design system where we're training innovation coaches, which are people who are supposed to make sure that people from different disciplines meet around the hot topic. So years ago, it was like, hey, drones are happening. Does that affect us and our machines? So innovation coaches get together a workshop with drone as a topic, informs everybody what it is, and then different people from different organizations join that and eventually come up with new ideas that you then handle. So this is a deliberate process today.
We address this then internally within that platform. There are then specific people, like I was also one of these, I'm still one of these persons. I'm addressing then all the related stuff that's coming in for services and solutions. And I'm addressing this then to a core team. And then we go through the ideas, and then we evaluate, okay, this is something really interesting. This is worth kind of funding, apparently. Or we have some questions to clarify some of the kind of gaps. And that's typically taking a week or two from input of the idea to decision. And then here you have a go count and to then start them.
So we are running an investigation for like 12, 15 years now, where we try to investigate what are good practices in product management and what are typical challenges in the industry. One of the top 10 challenges that is always brought up is gold plating. Right? When you keep investing and keep improving a product that would be considered by the customers, there's good enough of that, which is a tricky problem.
Yes.
Because, but do you have measures in place to identify the sweet spot that is good enough to actually deploy system? There's no silver bullet. I mean, but obviously
it is really hard because our products serve monthly usage. So I had a meeting with this group of students we are supervising right now, and we are addressing the same product. For example, reload, we are addressing that right now in the mining industry. We are addressing it into the quarry or raw material extraction industry. and we're addressing it into the general construction. And all of them have different needs when it comes to that. And so to being able to reduce our variations of the machines, but still being able to serve these customer types, we have to make kind of trade-off. So the product will never be the best sitting for mining, because then we will never be able to sell it to general construction, and vice versa. So in some cases, we know that for example, if we're talking about rigid dump trucks, you will never see a rigid dump truck in one of these big house, like a single family house trucks that are hauling or in these open pit mines. These we also have, but it's also for this very specific purpose. And there, since this was a company we kind of recently bought, we need to figure out what that gold leaf and all the other ones are more or less general purpose machines, so general purpose production equipment, how we call that. And there are really the pieces. Now we almost have. I think we need to have this, but they also need to have that.
I think everyone needs a couple.
Like, yeah. They have one, but right now there are some discussions about the size. It's European size cups, but not American size. It's a constant issue. And, but to be honest, right now we're adding so many additional displays in machines.
Hard to fit them.
And then the cup holder typically was at that spot, and then it was just blocking the direct view to a very crucial display. When we're adding camera monitor systems for safety, for example, we are not allowed to display anything else on that display. And then you cannot say, yeah, we acknowledge that this is the revelation, but then we put a cup holder in front. It's a really big thing in front of that. So
you said that's not true. Correct.
No, but that would be something, yeah, we know, but they don't care. And that is, safety is one of our 4 values. And then we are doing a lot around that, the safety. And there was a huge learning we did. I had the pleasure to travel around all over Europe together with a key account. They opened their sites. So I was able to visit everything they are doing and interviewing a lot of people, kind of cross-sections through the whole company, to figure out what actually is their problem. Yeah. Because when you're going there, and that is something we heard today as well, if you're going there and you meet decision maker, they say, when it's about safety, I buy everything you have. So from our perspective, you really would like to only make money, then you can do something and you buy it, but it will not save a problem. So therefore, what we then figured out is, okay, it is not the function on the machine that makes a difference. For sure, it can help, but if you put the responsibility on the machine and therefore on the driver of the machine, that can really, really fire back on the whole kind of brand and image and all that. So therefore, instead we zoomed out and said, okay, what is the real issue here? And then we figured out it's about the infrastructure on site. It's about the culture between people. So I was in Brussels, where they then during summertime, where they need to assemble teams from both sides of Belgium, where you had then the Dutch speaking and the French speaking. And that was like a civil war within a group of people working together at the same construction site. But then our customer was saying, yeah, and I need a camera monitor system on that excavator, and they keep throwing stones to each other because they don't like each other, and they keep, because they are so proud of their own language, they keep, this guy is talking Dutch and this guy is talking French. So there was a cultural clash. And then we approached the customer and said, this is what you know to say. Training, and then these kind of the soft aspects. And that was our aha moment for them as well, because they are so blind, so close to time. And the same applies to us internally, that we sometimes, especially when we're working together with our students, they go out, they talk to people, they talk to customers, they come back, show us what they found, and then I'm in the situation right now. If I send it around, that the internal earthquake. Because they tell me more or less that some of our salesperson need to, how do you have to? Joseph, need to focus a little bit more on the customer process to provide the right offering. So, and that is something that I think it could be then also an activity to really increase then customer satisfaction. Would be just to understand what they are doing and how then our kind of actions on one side, what effects they have on customers. And the really tricky part here is not only to discover these needs and discover these findings, but also to document them and then report them and make them available for the ones that need it the most. And so that is quite interesting, and we try to keep pushing on that. We have summarized in terms. Some are not so interested in that word. That is the challenge we make.
But this is also, I think, this is a management challenge, because you need to have the manager that understands that you need both the efficiency and the innovation. And I think one of the things which I'm really proud of is that we've had this collaboration with Volvo when I was up in Luleå also. So it's been years and years, but down here in Blekinge, we had it since 2012, 13, I think. And now next week we go to Brazil with the Volvo product, but we have students solving these problems. And it's coming down to understand you don't need to be a team of 100 people who are well educated and working with excavators for 100 years. It can be fresh minds. And then as a manager, you need to have the mindset open to allow simple solutions to tricky problems, like this indicator when you're backing up and avoiding to go off the cliff. And a cup holder sounds really, it sounds strange, but if you look at the ones old enough to remember the old saw, it's just a small slot above the stereo.
Yeah.
Where you push, it goes out and it unfolds. People try to push it fast and see if it would break, right? There's a mechanism. But that was invented after the car was done. It was like desperate. We had no cup holders.
And replace it.
We got to replace it. Okay, we have 1 by 7 centimeters, and they fix that cup holder, and you know it's a famous solution. And cup holder is still a problem. It sounds odd, but it's not. Might be simple problem.
Something coming up over and over again.
Yeah, exactly.
What is really interesting with these student projects that are also running under this umbrella of the concept labs in some sort, that it usually we did together as supervisors, teachers, and sponsors, and think about, okay, what could be the challenge for the students in an upcoming year or period. And for sure, there is a lot of research and ideas are going with that. So for sure, it's a little bit of looking into the future already. As I already mentioned, we then explored urban mining and the possibility, or how we then go from elephants to ants, so shrinking our machines, and then also maybe from
taking away drivers,
cars, and all that stuff. And it typically, though, the pattern takes roughly 8 to 10 years after we finalize these projects until internally somebody asks you about the results. But constantly. So then people are, you have done some stuff here about that stuff, about this project. We found it on a project page, and I'm sure I'm sharing this stuff internally, and they are all interested in that. But for sure, it's sometimes we are quite ahead. But it's really, really interesting that then it's coming back, and then we see, okay, right now just the findings and the decision making or the reasoning behind the decisions of the students, that can be definitely used to then either keep on the project or enrich the decision making, that if we would go in a certain direction right now, so we are loosely connected to its maybe in space mining. So that there is stuff that is going on over deep sea mining. So there is stuff ongoing where we are kind of connected throughout the years, and what's quite interesting to be part of, and that we some sort have been involved in during this kind of exploration into it. So that's fun.
And that's probably where we round it up, because I think it's like Canadian space mining. Obviously, someone's going to mine on Mars in the future. But I think the point here is that when we're talking about this balancing act, the problems you have today, you have to solve them, because otherwise you're not surviving today, right? So it's not optional. You need to solve them. But when we're talking about potential new products, it's not like, oh, we start 3 new projects, every project is succeeding. It's having a portfolio of ideas, putting some seed money in a person's 4 hours a week or 500,000 Swedish K. That's not risking your company. But eventually, out of a portfolio of 10, 15 ideas, you are going to choose 1 or 2, which you make a little bit more expensive, which could be 50, 60 million. Building prototype is still not a commercial machine. And then you try it out, and eventually it becomes a commercial machine. So then people are saying, oh, we had 10 projects, we failed at 9 because only 1 went to market. It's not failure, it's deliberate experimentation. And if you only try to find a winner in the beginning, you will fail, because you can't pick the winner when you start experimenting. And I think what you could do tonight, I think, is like when you're playing games here now, talk to Martin about this, because what I think is interesting to talk about is that we have closed cycles. So with Volvo, this has been a deliberate process of bringing forward the innovation process, educating innovation coaches all over the world. They have been growing up, and eventually this has been adapted. So today it's a proven methodology inside a company like Volvo with this concept lab and everything, and it shows value. So the point here is for Karlskrona is like, when you start this, you don't have to start from scratch. You can start from existing experience and then tailoring that to your own situations. And it goes with every area. You don't have to build physical product. It works with software. It works with people. It works in any organization, right? Just depends on what skills you have from the beginning. So by that, I'm closing up a little bit with the question, which is that organizations that want to survive, they are not the most efficient. They are the most adaptive. So think about that, being adaptive and have the possibility to change. That is how we survive in the future. And talking about conflicts, you start looking at these war conflicts where we play. It's about adaptation and changing fast under pressure. The typical problem is just that when companies are fat and happy, they don't feel the stress, so they don't change. But that's the change mindset you still have to have, even if you are not stressed, because otherwise you're playing innovation theater. You're doing the right things, but you're not actually committing to it. So that's the main point of tonight. But with that, having spent that hour, I would say now, thanks for joining. You all heard each other's name. Now you can ask questions, talk to people, or reach out and grab that beer, grab some food, and we will turn on some music. You have shuffleboards, you have pool, you have darts, and it's free for everybody to use. The food you have to pay for, however. So thanks for coming, and remember, there will be next time. Do register the site so we have your email, and you can provide ideas for a topic for next time also. But with that, I say thank you, Martin, for sharing, and thank you for coming. Thank you.